What's going on, Clarence? Cornmeal. Let's do it. Demon arrive. Whoa. Demon arrive. Spicy mafia. Spicy mafia. You gotta keep it spicy. If you see a queen, you better wife it. While we lit her, then a lighter. It makes things much brighter. That's why you gotta keep it spicy. You gotta keep it spicy. Gotta keep it spicy.
Alrighty, well, it is indeed an honor to have back on the great, the wonderful, the talented, the beautiful Naomi Brockwell of NBTV. She's a mistress of ceremonies for just about every cryptocurrency-related conference on the planet. I have no idea how she's able to do it, but she's a world traveler. She knows everybody, all the projects. There's just not a better person to talk to. If you want to know what's going on with cryptocurrency, you've got to grapple with Naomi Brockwell. But before we get into what she's doing now and what she'll be doing in mid-February of 2020, first off, Naomi, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a delight.
All right. So I guess the big topic now is NBTV and your YouTube channel that extends to a couple other platforms as well. You seem to be everywhere, but you got kind of a scoop before just about anybody, I think, and you were able to get the now infamous Hex. I want to call him maybe an early developer of the crypto.
Yeah, I would say like a main developer. He really was part of the project in a large way for a while. So it was great. I'm really thankful to Kieran for coming on the show.
And that was a fantastic interview in the sense that, you know, there's sort of the official, you know, sort of landing page idea of a project. It's white paper, for lack of a better phrase. And then there's all the hype around it, and then there's the haters and the tribalists. And so who better than someone who actually was, you know, part and parcel to designing it to come on there. And it was a really great interview. Did you get much pushback from that particular interview?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, nothing but pushback, actually. It's funny because my videos are generally non-confrontational, and that's by design. Even when I do debates on my channel, like I remember I did a debate with Chris Pacier and Jimmy Song, and I told them before we started, I said, listen, if this is just going to be ad hominems thrown at each other, I'm not interested, because yeah, I'll probably get more views that way. That's great, but there are a handful of people in the world who actually want actual information. They actually want people to talk to each other and discuss points, and if they have tech pushback, then they want to be able to have actual valid responses, not just, you know, slurs thrown in their direction.
Not us. We want the dirt. We want the spice.
All the spice. Yeah, I'm like the antithesis of CoinSpice. So I told them, listen, don't talk over each other. I want you to actually address each other's concerns. Let's talk through some of these points. And so it's funny, like my videos, if you look at my stats, I have like, it's kind of hilarious. I have like a 98% upvote rating, upvote to downvote. And that's really uncommon, because you look at YouTube videos and generally there are lots of haters who come on. My Richard Hart video is 50% downvotes. And maybe it was just out of the ordinary, a terrible interview that I did. Maybe that was the reason, or maybe there are a lot of people who drunk the Richard Hart Kool-Aid and who really want their bags to go to the moon and are really hate anyone who casts doubt on the fact that this will happen. So that was an interesting experience. And it was also interesting having Richard crash the chat. And then I was like, what the hell, let's bring him on the show. And then just have, like, I've never had someone be so rude to me on my show. And again, it's because I live in this bubble of like rainbows and sparkles and everyone's like holding hands and singing Kumbaya. And Richard comes on. He's like, fuck that. Can I swear on your show, by the way?
No. Yes, of course.
God damn. All right. Yeah, no, he just comes on and he just shits all over that. And I'm like, whoa. So caught me off guard a little bit, but it really shouldn't have surprised me because his actions raised a lot of red flags to me. A lot of the work that I do, it just comes down to observing people and trying to get information from very biased sources. So you end up being able to see through a lot of the bullshit. And he kind of came on and just, there were so many tactics. Like, you watched it, right? When he,
I sure did. Well, see, what was interesting is that you had Kieran on for 2/3 of the interview, and then all of a sudden that sort of ended. I thought it was going to go away, and then you're like, oh, well, against my better judgment, I'm going to bring on.
Against my better judgment.
Yeah, and you had him on. Just
stupid thing.
Yeah, you had the creator, Richard Hart, right?
You know what? I don't regret it at all. I learned so much from dealing with him there. Just like, I mean, let's walk through what actually happened. So I've been friends with Kieran for a long time. He's a regular on my show. He comes on my weekly crypto recap a lot. I met him years ago in Perth. He's actually from my hometown. And for a long time, I was getting kind of cryptic messages from him saying, you know, he's involved with something and he's getting more and more doubtful about it. And so I'd start to get these little pieces of information until finally he's saying, like, you know, I may be working on a project that is not altogether honest, and I won't go into exactly what he said, but he got serious reservations, and he ended up leaving Hex in December last year, and just wiped his hands of it. He asked them to remove him from the webpage. He really wanted nothing to do with this. So then Hex is getting all of this publicity, and a lot of my friends are kind of saying, oh, this is cool, we can get this free money. And it made me take a step back because I've just been watching that OneCoin BBC series. And, you know, I spend a lot of my time on my channel getting angry at people who call things scams and who hate on projects just because people are dealing with innovative tech. And, you know, you look at the startup world, when a startup fails, people don't call it a scam. They just say it's a failed project. Yet in the crypto world, everyone calls everything a scam. You know, if it doesn't work, oh, it was a scam. And I take a lot of issue with that. But then watching the OneCoin thing, you know, it really put into perspective, like when there are scams, you have to talk about it. You have to call it out. And so many people got hurt, and it was absolutely heartbreaking to see so many people lose money with OneCoin. And so with the background that I had on Hex, you know, I wasn't calling it a scam, but the facts were one of the main developers on the project had enough reservations about it and saw enough red flags that he left it and wiped his hands off it. So I thought it would be really great to have him on the show and just talk about those red flags. And if you listen to the interview, neither of us ever called it a scam. Kieran didn't call it a scam. I didn't call it a scam, but we did discuss the red flags that made him leave the project. And I thought that was a very valid thing for my viewers that I thought that they would appreciate. And then what happened was, like, first of all, let's ignore the Richard part. Like, the whole point of the interview was to have Kieran on to show the other side of things, someone who's worked in depth with the project, who knows the code very well, to talk about why he left. And that was why I wanted to make the video, not to confront Richard, not to have some sort of a clickbaity debate where I call him a scammer. Like, I'm just not interested in that stuff. Maybe I should be more interested in it. I don't know. It's just not my style. But then, so Richard crashes the chat and he's like typing in there. And so after about 15 minutes, like as soon as I saw him, it was about 15 minutes into the chat. And so I said, like, Richard's here. And I sent Kieran a private message while we're talking. And I'm like, did you know Richard's in the chat? Kieran didn't see my message. So I'm like, screw it. I sent Richard an invitation to join. I was like, why not? You know, just like, maybe Kieran won't be comfortable with that, but let's just see what happens. So I even said on air, you know, Richard, if you want to join, I just sent a message to you on Twitter. You've got the link there. Anyway, Kieran and I chatted for almost an hour about all these red flags. And we're about to close down, and I'm contemplating, do I push the issue and tell Richard to come on? And I was ready to just leave it. And then Richard arrives in the waiting room on my Zoom chat. And so I was like, all right. Let's see what happens here. And I let him in. And first of all, everyone was so angry at me because exactly what you said. I gave 50 minutes to Kieran and I gave 5 minutes to Richard. I don't do 14-hour live streams or whatever it is Richard Hart thinks is valuable. My audience does not find those things valuable. So it was a matter of understanding my audience. What I do think they find valuable is learning more about projects and getting valid information. And I knew right from the outset Richard wasn't going to provide that, because he comes into the chat, he immediately insults me in these backhanded ways. You know, it's amazing when someone is trying to get the upper hand, like the power moves that they make. And he immediately is like, oh, do you want to put it on my channel? You'll get more views. Keep in mind, he really doesn't have many more subscribers than I do. So that's really, I mean, that was quite funny to have him do that. And then he starts telling me that I've never made a successful brand or built a successful business. So I was like, okay, thanks, Richard. And all of this, you know, I could justify like whatever progress I have made. I'm very happy with my life and what I have achieved. So it's not it's not really something that's of pressing importance to be like, Richard, no, I will fight you on this issue. Here are all the reasons why I think you should validate me and see the work I've done is important. But it was just fascinating to see him immediately come on a show and start to undercut and discredit the people on there. And I thought that was very clever. And then I asked him if he wanted to, you know, to rebut anything Kieran has said, and he says, everything I heard, I agree with.
Yeah.
And so that's the end of it. You know, I really was just giving him a courtesy to come on. And if there were any red flags from his point of view about what was brought up, I wanted to give him the chance to rebut. And he used that chance very poorly. And then he turned it around, and instead, like, he started at the end. You probably saw he was badgering me, saying like, what was wrong with it? Tell me what's wrong with it. Tell me what you don't like. And he just kept pushing it. And it's like, we just spent 50 minutes talking about what we don't like. You know, why are you picking on the less technically savvy person when Kieran is literally in the chat right now and you told me you agree with everything he said? You know, it clearly was him just picking the underdog and trying to find someone he could win a debate with, rather than actually talking about the valid technical concerns that Kieran brought up on the chat. And I don't think it's a valid concern. Everyone was saying like, Kieran didn't mention anything that wasn't already made known. And I just think that's a kind of bollocks argument, to be honest. You know, if just because you admit something's a scam, it doesn't make it any better. You know, it's like saying like, yeah, I told everyone this is going to give them cancer, and then as if that like makes the product better. You know,
yeah,
like,
it's a real interesting dilemma now that's hit the crypto sphere, especially on the cryptocurrency side of things, the peer-to-peer electronic cash enthusiasts, Bitcoin Cash and so on, with regard to the Bitcoin.com exchange. They, of course, have decided to list it, and that has sent my side of the crypto argument here into a complete and utter apoplexy. I mean, there's divisions, good people, you know, who have varying degrees of I've not heard anybody endorse Hex. The closest they'll get to it is say stuff, well, you know, they want to list it, they list it. You want to buy it, don't buy it. But the rest of them have, you know, really worried about the implications of being associated with that project, with in a sense kind of giving it an imprimatur. He doesn't say it's a scam. Is Richard Hart doesn't say it's a scam so much, from my understanding, as he says he's using the tactics of a scam, like the marketing aspects of a scam, because they're successful, and he cites the OneCoins, the BitConnects.
I mean, it's a backwards argument. There are two things that he's saying. The first thing he was saying is, yeah, there's nothing Kieran's brought up that I haven't been saying out in the open. Just because you say something out in the open doesn't mean it's not a valid point. Just because you're admitting it yourself, just because you're letting people know about it, doesn't mean it's a genuine concern. A genuine concern is that this is a very centralized project. A lot of the coins seem to be all in the hands of Richard Hart, and I would not recommend any of my viewers to go near that project. I'm not going to call it a scam, because again, he doesn't seem to be misleading people. He does seem to be saying openly, no, this is the way it is. He seems to be agreeing with everything Kieran said. But it is not a project I recommend, and it's not a project I think people should be getting involved with. The second thing is, exactly what you said. He is presenting this as a scam because of some weird ass convoluted argument where he's just trying to muddy the waters to make them seem deep, so they say, where he's saying, yeah, well, a lot of people fall for scam tactics, and you know what? I'd rather them fall for these scam tactics on a project that isn't actually a scam to protect them, because, you know, if they go for my project, then they're not choosing a scam, and so we're saving them. It's like, first of all, the logic in that is rubbish, because you're suggesting that if someone's involved with one project, they're not going to get involved with another project. And actually what you're setting up is precedent. If they get involved with your project that you're just, you know, selling as a scam, and they don't get scammed, suddenly they think, oh, well, those tactics are great. I'll get involved with other projects that sell themselves in the same way. So he actually is doing people a big disservice by promoting something in a certain way and encouraging them to go for other projects that are also doing equally as dubious marketing methods. So this whole thing, I mean, if I was unconvinced before he came on the show, I'm definitely convinced now that I think people should stay away from this project, because before I was like, okay, yeah, Kieran has some valid concerns, I'm not going to encourage this. But then to have someone come on and just have like such a snaky response in like the way I ask him a question about scams, and his answer isn't to actually address the question, but to instead talk about how he hates scams in general, thereby distancing himself from scams. You know, like there are all of these acrobatics that he performed on the show to get out of questions, to divert attention. You know, people should be aware of tactics like that, and beware of people who use those tactics, because they're generally not good use. So again, I would not encourage my viewers to get involved with this project. They tend to look to me for recommendations or news, or, you know, a heads up about what things I'm doing and like what projects I'm getting involved with. And so I take that very seriously. I think that is a responsibility. I wish that other people in the space would take this just as seriously. So I'm not going to encourage them. I think that adding things to an exchange, yeah, I mean, it's probably a good business decision. It seems that this is a popular enough project that, you know, people are going to get involved, they'll make some money. So in terms of providing money for their investors, I think that that's they made the right call. In terms of a signaling device to people, I personally, if I was the head of the exchange, would not have made the same call, because I don't think it's a good project, and I would probably be more discerning about things that I list. But I mean, at the end of the day, you got to decide whether that's the battle that you're going to be fighting, or whether you're going to be creating a successful business that makes a lot of money. And, you know, if people want this, you're providing a service to them, you know, providing liquidity, etc., for them to be swapping this out. So it's as you said, it's a very complicated situation.
Wow. Yeah, I think you've come down exactly as I think as I think most people will and ought. And it is interesting that I was just telling we have a weekly a CoinSpice meeting at our ginormous headquarters. We all helicopter in, and
ginormous headquarters. It's in like an underground tank at the bottom of the ocean.
I really can't comment. But yeah.
Well, I've heard the rumors.
Yeah, the hush hush. And so we were chatting about this because it became a topic over the last couple of days, and it's the hell that's my life, and the fact that I don't want to cover it, but because the community is so insistent upon having this conversation, I have to talk about it. And then you had just had it, so now we're going to talk about it. I feel at some point I'm becoming a useful idiot I
know, exactly right, because you have someone who has such controversial tactics. You know, that's the best way to get people to talk about this, right? And everyone's just falling right into it. I fell right into it, but honestly, I think I was doing people a service, because I do think there is valuable information in the video. Yes. People can watch it, decide for themselves. That's exactly what I said.
Yours is one of the most original takes on it, because you got a primary source. So that I find that interview very valuable.
I appreciate that. I mean, I don't come from a tech background. I'm not a coder. I'm not, submitting any pull requests in GitHub. Like this is not what I do for a living. I bring smart people who are experts in their field onto the show and ask them questions that I think will help give people useful information. And so Kieran was just really valuable because he was in this very unique position, not only had like knowing the project in depth because he worked on it, but also not having the same inherent biases that you would expect from someone in such a position. It's very uncommon to have someone who worked on a project, who has that in-depth knowledge, who isn't still on the project and, you know, is like not just selling it. You know, I have a lot of people on my show who are CEOs, and obviously they're on the show to sell whatever platform it is that they're a part of. And so you always have to take that with a grain of salt. With Kieran, it was sort of the other side of things. Maybe he had biases against the project.
Sure.
A lot of people think he's some disgruntled, you know, employee who was fired. Like, this is just not the case. And knowing that this wasn't the case, I was very comfortable having him on the show because, as I said, for like a year beforehand, I had been listening to Kieran raise doubts about this. And so to bring him on the show, I thought was very valid and very helpful to people.
Yeah, we'll have a link to that and to all of your work in the show notes.
And please upvote it because it makes me so sad. I don't have a thick skin with this stuff. I mean, I'm not going to cry about it, but I like to see the upvotes. And so this is just like thrown me a turn. But let me just pull it up right here. So there's 9K views right now. Yeah, almost half of the votes are downvotes. And you should see the comments. It's such thankless work. Putting this stuff out, because I get like such angry messages, and they're not just like, oh wow, you should have brought up this point. You know, I get a lot of comments like that, and then I delete a lot of comments that are like grotesque about like rape or violence or, you know, like really disgusting things. And you've got to take a step back and be like, wow, these are the people who took the time out to write a comment on my video because they like Hex so much that they didn't want me bringing up any issues with it. You know, it's kind of shocking. I should do like maybe a regular segment where I just read my favorite grotesque comments. It's craziness.
Yeah. Well, and what, okay, so I could have on anybody to bitch and moan about Richard Hart and Hex, and it's very fashionable on my side of the tribal coins here to talk crap about him and to dunk on him, and it's easy right now. But the reason your perspective is so valuable, and I promise you we're going to get off of this. This was not supposed to be the focus of the podcast.
Richard Hart show.
Yeah, and so is because you travel in all the different circles. So if there's anybody that could, you know, sort of sup or sit down with a Richard Hart, and talk to him and have a conversation with him, it would be you, or would have been you. And,
I don't think. Well, it could still happen, but I'm just so not interested. I just, you know, this guy does 14-hour live streams. He gets enough airtime. We'll just leave him to do his thing, and I'm happy to not promote his stuff.
Right. My point is just that I don't think he gets kind of that you're, I mean, obviously he understood you enough or your impact enough to come on the show because, as you saw, he does, and pardon the expression, a dick measuring contest of I can't think of a better phrase.
Who won? Whose dick is bigger?
Sure.
Richard or mine? It's probably Richard's. To be honest, I don't have a dick.
There it is.
It's true. I'm a woman.
Boom. But he that's how he measures in terms of likes or, you know, money and so on. So I don't think he quite understands that you are someone that a lot of people look to sort of bring a sense of normalcy to cryptocurrency. And like I say, you can go between all these people. And the fact that you were so repelled by your first encounter with him is we'll see. We'll see how it goes and what it means for him going forward. I'm very curious to see what happens to Hex and the projects that and the businesses that associate with him.
Yeah, for sure. And the whole, I mean, It's, as I said, like my show, I'm not particularly confrontational. I really value smart people coming on and educating the audience. That's why I created the channel, because I thought cryptocurrency was this fantastic tool for fighting oppression and giving people financial autonomy. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to say, listen,
Right.
if you're not a tech person, I will try to be a translator to explain to you why this is important to you and why you should care about this. And so I rarely will call out projects that, you know, there are obviously a lot of scams in the space, and I tend to just avoid those because, as you said, you know, any publicity is good publicity sometimes. So but there are some big projects like that I just don't want to see people getting hurt. You know, at the end of the day, you can make up your own mind about Hex. As I said, I don't think Hex is a scam per se, because Richard's been pretty open about how it works, and he said he agrees with everything Kieran said. But I do think that maybe a lot of people don't understand the repercussions or the consequences of some of these things that Richard's talking about. And I do not trust the man himself, and I don't like the project. So I'm not going to encourage my viewers to get involved. And furthermore, I'll encourage them to probably stay away. You know, even if you're claiming free Hex or whatever, you're still helping and adding to the ecosystem, which could be a signaling device. You're adding to this market mechanism, which is going to signal others and say, well, this has value because it has velocity and people are moving these coins around, etc. You know, like I always say, just don't participate in this, but that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's a valuable 2 cents or 2 hex or whatever we want to say.
2 satoshis, whatever we want to say.
That's how I'm measuring everything now. That's on the brain. But anyway, but like you say, your point is financial freedom is liberty, and you come from a distinctly anarcho-capitalist background, as we talked last time, and you're being mentored by the great Gene Epstein. And your intellectual development in economics. And that leads us to Anarchapulco, which is coming up again, an annual gathering in Acapulco, Mexico, that was founded by Jeff Berwick of the Dollar Vigilante and Anarchist fame. They've been doing that for a few years now. And I guess the question is, you know, since you're going to an anarchist conference, are you an anarchist?
I'm very open about that. Yes. I believe that the state is illegitimate. And it's funny because a lot of people talk about anarchy as if like, oh, well, it's all chaos and you guys don't believe in rules. And it's just so completely not the case. And I wish that the word didn't have such a smear associated with it, because it really is all just about voluntarism. It's about freedom of movement. It's about not having a nation state or any kind of a state. And you could still form your own like private governments or whatever, but the idea would be to have competition in that. And a lot of people lose that nuance. And I'm hoping that at Anarchapulco, if people wanted to come, it should be pretty awesome. And hopefully they will come to understand more of this nuance.
It's going to be happening February 13th through the 16th in...
Oh, it's Valentine's Day. Come spend Valentine's Day in Acapulco.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot.
I've never been. I'm pretty excited.
I was about to ask, do you have any worries about going to Mexico? There's all sorts of warnings and...
Well, I mean, the Satoshi Roundtable is in Mexico every year, and that's pretty fine. So I'm sure that this will be something similar. They generally take pretty good precautions at conferences like these. There's lots of security, etc. So I'm not too worried, but traveling anywhere, I'm pretty on my guard. So. And
what's your? I sort of know the answer to the question, but what's your capacity? So I'm assuming you're not just going there, for vacation and fun, but you're there on business as well, right?
Well, to Acapulco, so I'm emceeing the CryptoPulco conference, which is part of the Anarchapulco brand. They run 2 conferences simultaneously. One is just about anarchy, and the other is just about crypto. So I'll be emceeing the crypto conference, and I'm pretty excited about that. I get to do what I love in a beautiful place, surrounded by awesome people. Yeah,
and I'll be interested to get your feedback once you return, because you've been all over the world and you've hobnobbed with these guys and gals in various capacities to get your impressions of CryptoPulco.
I have heard, like, the word on the street is it's a very fun conference.
Yeah.
And there's all types. I think that, I mean, especially spending a lot of time with the Free State, you get that as well. There are all types. It's a big tent. And so I from what I've heard, Anarchist is very much the same, and that it's just going to be a lot of fun. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, they've got some pretty heavy hitters going down there. Let's see here. We've got, well, I see Ben Swan, investigative journalist, is going to be there. Brock Pierce. Just going down the list here.
I think they had Ron Paul last year. I'm not sure about this year.
Yeah.
Who the headliners are. I know they have some like surprise guest speaker as well. But they tend to have some pretty big names there, which is always fun.
Yeah, the NEPay guys will be there. The CEO of Library, or LBRY, that got Stossel. Yeah. It looks like it should be an interesting conference. And do you have any particular hopes for it? Like, is there any particular emphasis you're going to give it, or just kind of when you get there, you'll kind of get the feel of it?
Well, I don't know. It's always difficult for me at conferences because I have to be up like the earliest out of all the attendees, because I'm on stage at like 8 or whatever. I tend to not participate in any of the partying. So I'm the person who's like, 7 p.m. I'm going to sleep.
Right.
So it's always a shame because everyone talks about how fun these conferences are and how they just spend up all night drinking or whatever. So generally that is not me. I go to bed early and I'm pretty perky all throughout the day. I hope that at some stage there's something awesome like a dance-off or a karaoke fest or just awesomeness like that. And generally I'll participate in that on the last night. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, this place is known for its parties. And last year, I guess they had Wu-Tang Clan down there at a club. So love to see Naomi and Wu-Tang.
This year they should get Wu-Tang Financial. That'd be a
there it goes. And do you find, I guess I kind of know the answer to this question as well, but cryptocurrency is such a online activity. It's such a virtual, social media driven community. Do you find that it's important to get into the meat space and,
I love it. I absolutely love it. Like when was it, October or September that we had the Bitcoin Cash conference in Townsville? And I just thought that was one of the best conferences I'd been to. Can I just share some beef with you right now?
Go.
It's probably a good opportunity for it. And I'm not going to do it on my own channel because, it's not as spicy as your channel. I am so disappointed in crypto conferences right now. I could almost guarantee that I have emceed more crypto conferences than anyone else in the world. I've been doing it for years. I, at one stage, was doing 3 international conferences a month. And so I've seen a lot of these presentations. And this year, I think there's been one conference that has reimbursed its speakers or paid the honorariums in crypto.
Wow.
One that I know of. And I think that's disgusting because, if we're talking about conferences, these are people who are purporting to bring together people in order to celebrate cryptocurrencies, promote cryptocurrency, to get cryptocurrency ecosystem blossoming, all of that stuff, right? And even there was one conference this year that was a big deal. They even made me send out a press release prior saying like, could you tweet about this? This is an important thing. All of the merchants at our conference will only be accepting Bitcoin. This is a Bitcoin only event. And then when I went to send my invoice for payment, they refused to pay me in Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency. I think that's such a misrepresentation of what these conferences are about. You cannot pretend and put yourself out there as something that is supporting cryptocurrency and then not be willing to use it. You can't force your merchants to be a part of this and pretend that, you're all on board and then refuse to do it yourself. And a lot of the reasons people gave were, it's a nightmare for accounting. I'm sorry, that's not a reasonable excuse anymore. There are way too many third parties that make this stuff super easy that you should be concerned with this. If this is an issue, fine. Going forward, I will charge a surplus if you would like to, pay me in fiat, and hopefully that will start to put off some of the costs that may be incurred for extra bookkeeping or whatever it is that you're worried about with paying in crypto. But conferences, if they were just presenting themselves as, hey, we're not really in the crypto space, we're just bringing together smart people, and you're going to get value from hearing these smart people, that's fine. I think that's a totally valid service, but don't pretend to also be an organization that supports cryptocurrency if you're not willing to use it, because that, I think, is crazy. And so that's why, I just thought of this, bringing up the Bitcoin Cash conference, because that is the one conference this year that actually had an emphasis on using cryptocurrency. And it wasn't just Bitcoin Cash that all of these merchants and everything accept. There were multiple different cryptocurrencies, but the emphasis was on using crypto. And I think that is so important. And the second conference, but it's not happening until next year, is Anarchist. They're paying all of their speakers and reimbursements and all of that. They much prefer to use crypto for that. So these are two conferences that I think are walking the walk and not just talking the talk.
Preach. I love it. Boom. That is how it's done. That is the great Naomi Brockwell. She is at NBTV on YouTube. You can follow her on Twitter, and I'll let her explain all of that to you in just a second. Before we go, thank you so much for all of your time. Everybody get out to Anarchist. We'll have links to how to get tickets and go see Crypto Puko, which is part of that package. Get there, enjoy, have a margarita, hang out with Naomi. And again, thanks so much for coming on. And how can our guys follow you?
So you can follow me on any decentralized platform or any media platform out there. I'm generally on all of them. If there's one I'm not on, let me know about it. But you can find me on Twitter as Naomi Brockwell, on Steam as Sky Corridors, actually. Bit of a branding mistake there. I'm on memo.cash, minds.com, library.com, read.cash, float. All of the things. As I said, if I'm not on it, then let me know. BitChute as well. Major channel. I really encourage you to head over to my YouTube, and that is just Naomi Brockwell TV. But then all of my content is also uploaded onto BitChute and library as well.
Very nice. Thanks again. Rooting for you. Watch everything that you do, and have a happy New Year.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful chatting with you, and you have a wonderful holiday season.